To truly understand Singaporeans, you need to understand the invisible value they grab with, not the one written in the textbook, but the one observed through the family dinner, neighborhood interactions, and years of schooling. Three concepts will help you most: kiasi, collectivism, meritocracy, and the first one will move into the kiasi, the fear of losing out. Kiasis is probably the most distinctively Singaporean concept you ever encountered. The words come from Hokkien. Kia means the fears and su meaning the lure. Put them together and you get the fear of losing out, and it's so up everywhere in everyday life. Singaporeans will queue at 6 in the morning to secure at the 6 at the popular hawker store. They enroll their children in tuition classes before primary school even starts. Some parents register their newborn name on school waiting list before the baby can even sit up. It's such extreme, but this same message directly linked to Singaporean ranking number in the world of education in PISA index and the top 3 globally for the English proficiency. So, Kiasu drive achievements, but then question, what does the achievement cost? The downside of Kiasu is real: chronic stress, anxiety, over commitments, and burnout. Here's what fascinating the younger generation in Singapore. Millennials and Gen Z are increasingly pushing back. They are redefining what success means. Not the grade, not the job title, not the salary, mental health, purpose, balance. There are quite a cultural revolution happening right inside Singapore society right now. And the second one I want to mention with you guys is the collectivism and harmony. On hostage individualism index, Singapore scored 20 out of 100. For contact, United States scored 91. What does that actually mean in practice? It means Singaporeans tend not to telling people directly when they disagree. They find the indirect, fact-saving way to negative conflict. Because preserving harmony matters more than winning an argument, that doesn't mean Singaporeans are passive. They are falsely loyal with the family, to their organizations, to their community, and that loyalty is reciprocated. The group protects its members, its social ecosystem that look very different from what most Western society are used to, but it has its own deep logic. And the next one is respect for hierarchy and authority. Confucius influence run deep in Singapore, and a strong emphasis on ritual, hierarchies, and full responsibility. You show difference to the elder, to the above you at work, and to the government authority, not out of fear, but because that's how the social order functions with the stability. In 2025, the Singapore government continued to emphasize what is called the we-first species, placing the collective before the individual, especially in the world that feels increasingly unstable and divided. And here is something worth sitting with. A society that's right, hierarchy and difference can also be one of the most open and diverse in the world. Singapore is a proof that these things are not contradiction. And the first I want to mention is that's pragmatism and meritocracy. Meritocracy is the founding ideologies that Lee Kuan Yew built Singapore on from 1965. The idea is straightforward. It doesn't matter what family you were born into, what rank you are, what connection you have. If If you are capable, you will be recognized and rewarded. The education system operationalized through rigorous national examination that streams students from the young age. PSLE is all slavers A level, pressing them on the parts of their performance. But increasingly, people are asking harsh questions about whether the system is truly fair to everyone. If you were born into a low-income family with no money for tuitions, the meritocracies give you a junior's equal sort. This is the most heated debate in Singapore civil society right now. And what admirable is Singapore is major enough to having that conversations honestly about itself. And the five set values in the 1991. In 1991, Singapore did something that almost no other country has done. The government formally published a white paper on set value, 5 core social values to guide citizens' behavior, not law exactly, but guiding principle. They are 1. National before community and society before self. 2. Family is the basic units of society. 3. Community supports and respect for the individual. 4. Consensus, not conflict. And the last one, racial and religious harmony. You might agree with all 5 of these, or you might push back on some, but you cannot deny the result. Singapore has built one of the most cohesive multi-ethnic society in modern history, in the foundation that's worth taking seriously. And the 6. Our family structure and HDB living about 78% of Singaporeans live in public housing flat provided by the Housing Development Board or HDB. But this isn't just housing policy, it's social engineering in the most intentional sense. The ethnic integrations policy mandates that every HDB block must maintain a specific ethnic mix. You can't have a building that's entirely Chinese or entirely Malays, or result that Singaporeans grow up with the neighborhoods of different race, different regions, religions, different languages, and harmony isn't an abstract idea. It's a lived daily reality, and it's the end of the 7% right now. Now we'll get to the more interesting part, where Singapore is today and where it's heading. Because Singapore is not a museum, it's a living, evolving society that asks hard questions about itself every single day. And with the first part, HG60, reaffirming cultural identity in 2025, with Singapore proved that a country doesn't need to be large to have a culture that deep, layered, and worth knowing. It just needs to know who it is and have the courage of keeping that, even as the world trends around it. In 2025, Singapore turned 60, and HG City were not just a celebration, it was a movement of recordings. Who have we been for the past 60 years? And who do we want to be for the next city? The National Gallery launched Singapore Story, an exhibition of over 400 artworks and artifacts spanning from the 19th century to today. Singapore featured a science museum with pop culture memory. The National Day parades were the lucky history, and the masses running through all of its world, more than ever, we know who we are. That's not just yours, that's confidence. In the world of growing globalizations, knowing you are is a strength, not a limitation, as the city where Singapore claiming that strength out loud. Next part of one mentions that edgy Singapore culture part, democracy and cultural access. The Singapore culture part is perhaps the most cultural policy Singapore has launched in the recent year. Introduced in 2025, it gives every Singaporean citizen credits they spend on the local arts and culture. SIFA tickets, museum entry, heritage experiences, and from March 2026, Singlish title in all four official languages. By January 2026, over 1.1 million people had registered, and nearly 10 million Singapore dollar in the credits had been used. But beyond the number, the intent is clear. Singapore wanted to save its people habit. Instead of spending on the foreign entertainment, invest in your own culture. Instead of streaming international content, read the local author. The government isn't just building infrastructure for the ad, it's trying to build an audience. This is Singapore saying to its own people, local cultures is worth your time and your money. And the next one is a traditional mixed modernity, heritage in adaptation. Traditions in Singapore is not something preserved in the glass case. It's something that's adapt, evolve, and find new expressions in each generation. Burmese collective take the philosophy of traditional Malay dance and bring it into the contemporary tries to tell story about the modern social issue. Batik, one of the fading craft, is being received by young Singaporeans designer, and is now supported by the Culture Pass credit. But their real tension too. In 2024, a hardware store at the Marine Paris market it beats at a record-breaking 10,000 Singapore dollar per month. That sparks a fine public debate. Can hardware center remain in the place where ordinary work can make a living when market rates make profitability almost impossible? The question Singapore has not yet answered and insists at the heart of what it means to preserve a living culture, not a heritage label. The fourth conquest of one mentions that digital cultures and the creative Singapore in the investing heavily in what it calls a creative economy. The idea that creativity itself is an economic engine. The National Arts Council RSG Arts Plan 2023 to 2027 aim to amp arts into everyday Singaporean life, not just galleries as dress, but in the public park, hospitals, and school and service center. The arts will be everywhere, not somewhere. Singapore AI markets forecast on to grow from 1.05 billion to 4.64 billion US dollar by 2030. Digital arts, generative arts, immersive installation, they are creating entirely new creative possibility. And in 2026, Singapore hosts in ISPA Congress, the International Society for the Performing Arts, when the world's leading performing arts professional to Singapore at their meeting point. It says something about where the city stands. And the five concerns of one say that Its wet cultural fusions and global integration Singapore embraces global cultural ways openly. K-pop, animals, these as fusion cuisines but doesn't get a job by them. SIFA 2026 bring artists from the French, South Korean, Peru, Sweden, Brazil, and Japan to set the stage with a Singaporean performer. This is not passive consumption, it's a dialogue. Singapore is not only importing cultures, it's exporting its artist, its story, its perspective are increasingly present in international conversation. The shift from the consumer to creator is one of the most significant things happening in the Singapore culture life right now. And next one is the tension between traditional and modernity. For ongoing negotiations, let me leave you with the four tensions that are actively shaping contemporary Singapore. The as problem to be solved, the conversation to be understood, and food. Should the Hungarian culture be protected from market force, or should economic reality be allowed to receive? Is even if that means losing the traditional language, a seamless, precious and irreplaceable markers of Singaporean identity, or is a barrier to effective communication that should give way to standard English? On education, so Singaporeans continue to put for academic excellence through the merit of proxy. It shows it up while tying the mental health, the well-being of its young people first. On identity, as globalization accelerates, how does Singapore hold on to its distinct multi-ethnic roots without becoming worse another in the Chandlerburg cosmopolitan city? None of the questions have an easy answer, and the generation that will answer them, Gen Z Singapore, is already doing so quietly and on their own terms. The way they choose to live what they value, what they refuse to give up, that will determine what Singapore look like in the next chapter. And that's what makes Singapore, for all its small size, one of the most fascinating societies to work in the 21st century. And at the end, thank you.